Hello, everyone. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good morning. I see that we have people from all over the world, so good afternoon to some and good morning to the others.
Hello, everyone.
We'll just be waiting a couple of minutes for everyone to join. How are you today, Jimmy?
I'm doing well, thank you. What about you?
I'm doing good, thanks. Hello, Julio. Hello, Fernando. Don't hesitate to tell us where you're from.
Thank you, Rashad.
Hello. So today we have a very fun topic and a very interesting one from Dubai. Welcome. Hello from Italy. Hello from Paris too. Welcome. So our audience is from various areas of the world. Awesome. So just a couple of things before we start. The recording for this webinar will be available. So you will receive the recording after we finish this webinar, and it will also be uploaded on our website, our social media, and on our blog. So feel free to check them out. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll be dedicating around 10 minutes to 15 at the end of this webinar for questions. So feel free to drop your questions whenever you have them. And we will also, P1 Security will also be in MWC very soon, in a couple of weeks, in Barcelona. So feel free to book a meeting with us from our website. And if you're going to be there, we'd love to meet you. So let's get started. So today we're very excited to have you with us for a webinar on a topic that's becoming very critical every day: the security risks of international IP-based SIP networks and effectiveness of SIP IDS. And to help us break it all down, we're lucky to have Jimmy Bio with us today. Jimmy is a telecom security expert at P1 Security. And if there is one thing you should know about him, is that he's been in the heart of telecom security with years of experience in areas like 5G, penetration testing, IMS security, SS7, the Sectron. He's helped secure networks for organizations like Airbus, Capgemini, Ericsson, and the French Ministry of Defense. So, Jimmy, what do we have lined up for us today?
Thank you, for the presentation. So for today, we will go through some descriptions of what IMS indeed is. So it's IP multimedia subsystems. We'll go through the voice path that we've gone through since more than 30 years now. Just to do a recap and just try to address and locate the exposures and attack surface that can be exposed over the roaming legs on the MNOs networks. Then we'll move on to the security designs and more the guidelines part of what is brought by the big consortiums and associations like GSMA and N3IWF, ETSI, etc. We'll go through all of those, and then we will move forward to concrete findings that we provide within P1 and we found during our pen tests with our great pen testers and auditors throughout the years. So it's concrete threats that has been discovered. Then we move on to a discussion around the detection and response and what can raise up the MNO's defense on the legs that are exposed. Then we will finish out with a spec up sessions with you guys because we are very, very exciting to discuss about it, yes, but it should be interesting for us in the end and for you in the end and for us at the after that. So yeah, this is the planning for today. I hope you will enjoy it. So if you allow me, I mean, I will go ahead and do the introduction since you've introduced me earlier. So, yeah, I'm Jimmy Billaud. I mean, already said everything. So let's move on to the first chapter that we have today, which is the IP multimedia subsystem network description. Just to do an overview of what the VoIP is and was over the years. I've told about 30 years now. Actually, IMS has been firstly introduced in the release 5 of the 3GPP. So it's been a long time now, and afterward it's been included in CDMA 2000, and now we know it as it is right now within the 4G and 5G networks, and earlier in the UMTS, as you may know. So first of all, the 2G, 3G, what do we add in the legacy networks of the Citron and SS7? So back in the days, we had the cellular networks which were carrying free services mainly. So it was data, not first of all, but data as the latest point. And we had SMS and of course the voice calls. And this is the topic of today. Regarding what are the nodes that were carrying the voices, we had the MSC VLR that were producing and handling all the control plane sections of the subscribers that they were handling. Then regarding the media gateway part, it was the media server that was carrying and is still working today and being used today throughout the world, even today in the SS7 and Citron. So MGW is still of use right now, and it's generally speaking co-located besides MSC VLR that are just the managing the mobility of your subscribers around the world. If we talk about a little bit of the protocols used to carry on the subscribers and the voice calls, and generally speaking, the control planes part, we had the RAN app, the HNBAP for the RAN part, the radio access network part towards the core, which were the MSC VLR part that we are talking about. And then for the supplementary services, we had the camel part and USSDs that were carried over also the SMS parts. And regarding the encoding of the media part, the voice itself, we had the H248 encoding part and the Megaco part back in the days before SIP was ever used. Even if there is some connectivity interconnections available today to ensure that the legacy networks can be still connected towards the IP-based networks. Regarding the roaming considerations, the MNOs just to extend the capabilities of the MNO agreements, each MSC VLR was able to produce and give to the subscribers that are being called, so the B parties, and what is called the mobile subscription roaming number, which is among the pool of addresses, GT addresses on the format of the GT addresses, which is the E164 addresses of each MSC VLR in order to address. So it's an hidden MSI SDN basically that can provide you connectivity towards the network dynamically, actually. So it was about the 2G, 3G. If we move on a little bit, so I've told about the fact that the IMS was already present in the 3G. At least it appears that some MNOs have deployed back in the days and have followed the 3GPP release 5 and 6 in order to have an IMS connectivity up front of the big releases that we know now inside the UMTS. So you may know that it has already begun with the UMTS back in the days. If we move on, we have the 4G, which integrates the IMS directly, which is the solution to avoid using the fallback option that the 4G enables when you don't have IMS deployed on your network, on the MNO's network. You have the possibility, the MNO have the possibility to ask the mobile station to just fall back to 2G, 3G networks and use the MGW, MSC VLR, and MSRN usage if you don't have the IMS infrastructure deployed. And with the IMS infrastructure deployed this time, you will have the benefits of the VoIP networks directly. So by VoIP networks, you know that it's a SIP-based control plane session management protocols that is being used. And if the merging part with the mobile networks is conducting the SIP to be used, of course, and to remain in use in the VoIP side, but in the VoLTE side and the VoWiFi side for 4G through IMS, and you have the diameter, which is the main control plane protocol that is being used to authenticate and just make sure that the subscriber that is asking for this voice service, whatever the leg is using, either if it's non-3GPP, so non-trusted 3GPP access, which is not related to cellular, it's internet-based access toward the IMS, or the cellular network directly. So diameter is involved in there. So it's pretty much an access to the core network. And regarding the media part, so we have the server that is evolving a little bit, and it's ensuring the connectivity between the MGW that we found in the 2G, 3G networks and architectures, but it involves more IP-based infrastructure, and it is called now the media RF directly. The RTP and the RTCP are the main media protocols in use there, just because they avoid to use legacy networks protocols, but basically it's just more reliable, and it's just using UDP under the hood. In the end, in terms of the accesses, so I've told about the fact that IMS is connected to 4G. Okay, so the EPC core is connected to the IMS core. We will move on the following slides to describe a little bit the connectivities and the underlying interconnections between the EPC and the IMS itself. But first of all, you have to know that there is, as I said, two legs to access the IMS core and to reach this service, the voice service through IMS, which is through the VoWiFi directly and the VoLTE part. But you have also the fixed part, which means that the legacy networks, like not SS7 and Citron only, but PSTN directly, is able to be interconnected to IP-based networks like IMS is providing. You have one of the example of the design of use and access to the IMS core when you are roaming, when we are talking about roaming worldwide or nationwide, which is called the S8 home routing. S8 is an interface that is interconnecting towards the P gateway, the packet core gateway, towards the P-CSCF or the SBCs, as we know it's inside with the VoIP side, and we will just describe it a little bit in the few slides to come. If we move on a little bit with the 5G IMS, we have some kind of mirroring of what was existing with the 4G part, which is mainly two options that are offered to MNOs, which is mainly the same. Either you use the IMS legacy network, which is connected to your new packet core gateway, which is now the UPF, the user plane function, inside the 4G core and 5G standalone once it's deployed, and you have the option to force the fallback of the mobile station towards 4G. If the UPF is not connected to your IMS, now you have probably the packet gateway which is connected to it, and it's in this way you force just the voice to be handled by 4G. But it remains that one of the things, and one can bring some security issues there, is that the fallback option is enabling or could enable some legacy vulnerabilities towards the older technologies that are being used in there. So before moving forward about the security aspects and the exposures that it involves, let's describe just a little bit more what is in the 5G part that wasn't in the 4G and 2G, 3G. So you have I have told about the leg that enables the access to the IMS core through the EPDG, through the VoWiFi, which enabled by the EPDG. Here you have basically almost basically the same protocols in use, which is the enablement of the IPsec connectivity from non-trusted 3GPP protocols like internet-based or originating from the internet directly, which are handled through the N3IWF, the non-3GPP interworking function in the 5G core. But basically, it's the same idea: is to mount an IPsec tunnel between your UE, whatever it comes from the internet, and towards your infrastructure. So you have a first and foremost and unforbiddable security measure that is being used to connect to the IMS through the N3IWF, which is IPsec, first of all. Regarding the control plane aspect, you have the HTTP2, which is going to replace the diameter leg, just because when you talk about the CX and RX, so whenever there is some policy control functions involved, to just enable or just allow the authentication and the mobility access and management of the subscriber through whatever the legs is enabled for him to access the voice core network, then you will involve the HSS or the UDR, which are the database of your subscribers, of course. And you have the CDRs that are handled the same way as before through diameter also. Regarding the home routing aspect, this time we are calling the N9 home routing, which is basically the same as before with the S8 home routing, which is basically a connectivity from the UPFU gateway that you have on the visited network towards the UPFU dedicated to the user plane of your HPLMN, which is just routing the calls towards your IMS enabled network. So as I said, you have some legacy or some risk regarding the fallback options already. Just because, for example, an attacker can force a user, an attacker which controls the rogue stations that is enabling the 5G SA or broadcasting, or just enabling the registrations through 5G SA, can force with some registration failure calls or rejection calls to force the MS to just fall back towards more unsecure or vulnerable, potentially vulnerable technologies, like in 2G, 3G, for example. This is just one concern that needs to be in our minds when we are talking about fallbacks. It's an option to avoid forcing the MNOs to speed up into deploying the IMS, which is making it more flexible, of course, for the MS users. But in the end, it's not helping about the security. If we move forward a little bit, we will just describe a little bit the key components of the IMS directly. So the architecture is designed to deliver, of course, the multimedia services. And when we are talking about multimedia services, you have different types of services that are provided by IMS directly and handled by IMS, and the cores and the nodes that are composing it, and which are basically the voice, of course, through VoLTE, VO5G, or VoWiFi. But you have also some video calls that can be handled and conducted. To complete this solution, you have some rich communication services that can be deployed, so it has been deployed, even though it's not really used by MNOs, just because it doesn't, most of the time, it doesn't produce enough money, unfortunately. So it's instant messaging that are preferred to be used rather than RCS in the MNOs, but it will be evolving in some time. I'm sure about that. You have also the possibility to manage and to manage mobility, of course, through IMS core, and you have also the possibility to send SMS and MMS over the IP-based network, which is just intercommunications between the IMS core itself and the SMSC that we know now, or SMSF. And if we talk about the 5G SA deployment. Regarding the core components and what we should focus on today is the proxy part, is the P-CSCF. So you will hear very much acronyms with the call session control functions that you probably already know. And one of the key areas and key access that IMS provides to whichever legs you use when you want to access the IMS is the P-CSCF, the proxy. It's the main entry point towards the IMS core. It will reconduct and reroute directly to the proper interrogating or serving CSCFs nodes in order to either request the HSS for the authentication part, but not only the HSS, you will have a AAA server that will be used if you use the VoWiFi part, the connectivity, for example, and other nodes regarding, like I said before, the policy control functionalities. And you have the serving functions which basically is handling the same aspects as the serving gateway for the EPC, but for the IMS core directly. So it enables the dynamic changing and access to some of the services and some of the nodes that are deployed inside your IMS core. Of course, you have the HSS UDR, which is the database used to store the subscriber and their secrets. And you have the application servers also, which can be deployed. And basically, it enables a few more services to be used through IMS directly. In terms of roaming, the challenge here is to ensure the security and the experience of or to not impact the experience of the user in the end. But it needs to be secured, of course, between the partners that are enabling the roaming exchanges through SIP networks, basically. And you have, for that, you have breakout gateway or border gateway. It depends on the nomenclature you use. And these nodes are just enabling the interconnections between partners, which can be service providers or service providers that are not always MNOs, but can be partners in the business way for enabling some services that are not existing originally in your IMS core or directly MNOs or IPX directly. So just the roaming hub that are existing and enabling just the interconnections between partners of MNOs. Regarding that, we will just show off some examples of the designs that have been provided either by the GSM Association or by the 3GPP consortium directly, and we will show off some exposures and some risks that are already present inside their design and that needs to be addressed, of course. But yes, let's show off this first one, which is the multi-voice service providers. So you have in this case, you have different service providers, which are just showed up front, and you will see that the intercommunicating point and the central point is the IPX proxy. So it's just that here, both the control plane and the media plane are handled and are going through the IPX proxy. And here, what we can see is that the interconnectivity is being handled by the BGs, by the border gateway or breakout gateways. And here the concern is to just control what is being either transferred between one service provider to the other and what is being going through the IPX proxy in order just to secure and to avoid man-in-the-middle activities, for example, from the IPX1 and IPX side and other, let's say, concerned about the control plane side and also the media part, of course, that is being exchanged between subscribers, so A party and B party. So every control exchange is based on the SIP regarding IMS, of course, and carried through the border gateways. And you have all the legs that are connecting between BGs and IPX proxy or between service providers are called the NNI, the network-to-network interface, and they forced the 3GPP originally is forcing or pushing the MNOs or the service providers to use IPsec to connect to it. Today, normally you shouldn't have any null encryption into IPsec in use, but in practice it can be different. So as you can see with the arrows there, pretty much you have a bunch of exposure in this kind of schema and diagram that may impact just your attack surface and what you expose over this roaming leg. If we move forward with another example, we have the SRVCC, the single radio voice call continuity, which is enabling the 2G, 3G, and more precisely 3G access towards the IMS-enabled home network. You have a visited network which is not enabling, of course, the IMS. And it's in this way, in this area, in this design, you will have the possibility to either through emergency calls or through direct connectivity calls conduct some SIP-based and IP-based calls towards your home network, passing through the 3G areas. And here the exposure are different. When you attach to the network, of course, whatever you are using, Internet APN or the IMS APN or even the XCAP APN or SOS APN, you will be provided an IP towards your UE in order to conduct your calls and route your calls. And here it's the P gateway that is providing you these subnet pools IP that is allocating to you. And it's giving you also the main gateway to use, which is the P-CSCF ones. And here you are exposing the subnet. First of all, you are exposing the subnets to your UEs that is roaming in. And you are also exposing some other legs regarding the control planes from the visited network perceptions. And all of these needs to be carried on. If we move on a little bit, we have newer versions of the home routing that we saw with SRVCC, for example. You have the S8 home routing, and it's basically what I described earlier. You have a connectivity from your A party towards your B party. You have a connectivity from the visited PLMN, which is on the left-hand side, and towards the IPX, so just the roaming hub that is connected between two MNOs. And basically here it's we are forcing the voice call to be not out from the visited network again, but from your home network. And basically your S gateway will the S gateway, sorry, of the visited PLMN will contact the P gateway, the packet gateway of your home network to just address and route your calls and your control plane functions, control plane access and mobility management, as well as authentications toward the IMS core directly. And this is basically almost the same idea there. What has been provided to your A party callers, your subscriber which is roaming, is basically the same. Another IP from your P gateway and the P-CSCF address directly, which whatever it's IPv6 or IPv4 based, to control and to address your B party, which is being called. In 5G networks, you have the same exposure basically, but with other names for the nodes that are involved. Here you are, you will find the UPFU, both UPFUs contacting each other through the N9 interface, and it's basically the same. You will find the same idea. If we move on and we see and look for security design and implementations that are being provided, it's more a guidance that is being provided by the GSMA and the 3GPP regarding the deployment and the securing the legs between MNOs that are just interconnecting to each other. And to address that, these matters, you have some TS and some specs that are from the 3GPP and NC side, which are the three at the top of this list. One of them is just an overview and a research based, but the two others, the 3302 and 33328, are mainly focusing on the interconnectivity security aspects of the interconnections. And we will talk about the NNI in a few moments, but basically they are addressing the NNI and how to secure the NNI the proper way, as well as the control plane and the flows that are being handled and enabled throughout through the NNI leg. You will find some IETF, other IETF testing and definitions of how to use the SIP-based networks and how to control and test as an acceptance format your interconnections. whether it's on the roaming part or inside your IMS network. And more precisely, you will find the RFC 4475, which is basically just making sure that the SIP servers or SIP nodes that are using and implementing the control plane on your IMS side, IMS network is properly defined, and the torture test message, even if it's a catchy word like torture, it exists more than 20 years now, and it is being used right now by us within P1 to conduct our pen tests and see if the implementation is correct, and we don't find any side effects around bad or wrong implementations. If you are interested, I really invite you to consult this part. It's just very, very interesting in terms of security. Then you have the GSMA which is providing some FS files. You know, the GSMA is mainly known for the recommendations and in its guidance through either deployments and security aspects of it, or either the testing part, the active and proactive, which whether we are talking about testbeds or live networks, in order to make sure for you MNOs probably that you have all the keys to make sure that it's not vulnerable. Your IMS network or your SIP based node is not vulnerable to some attacks, some tampering that we will maybe show off in a few slides also. So mainly FS22 and FS38 in our cases are very interesting to address this kind of thing, even if it's whether if it's on the roaming side again or your own network directly. On the roaming side we are talking about NNI, and we are talking external other countries, foreign countries than yours, but you have also national roaming enabled, and all of these are addressed at some point within FS22 for VoLTE part mainly, and FS38 for SIP-based networks, generally speaking, but also, of course, all of the design and example that we have provided before. So, okay, if we talk about a little bit the NNI again. So what is the NNI? So basically, you have understood it. It's the leg that is enabling the roaming between two roaming partners, and how it is secure, or how it is supposed to be secure. Basically, it's through IPsec, or at least it was the 3GPP is defending for MNOs, and it's promoting for MNOs. And you have the SIP and RTP that are in the trunks, SIP trunks. It's basically like the VoIP is providing, without talking about IMS specifically, without talking mobile networks specifically. I mean, you will see basically the same. All of those should be encrypted, but it's not all the time the case, of course. And with this presentation, we want to raise this part, just because for many reasons you will have some let's say some context that will force the MNOs to not use the encryption through the VoLTE part and VO 5G part in the near future, just because the regulators are just saying or forcing the networks to not, or just to disable this part in order to not to achieve some legal interceptions matters. So it's mainly regarding your regulations and your national regulations. You might have not the choice sometimes. So it needs to be addressed at some point in order to ensure the security for the users directly. And we have a couple of options for that. So it's supposedly the NNI is supposedly to be wrapped in distinct IPsec channels and IPsec and SIP trunks that should be either MACsec or IPsec based secured. And it should brings up also an ESP AKI or AKA prime authentication, which enables the security of the authentication. It's just follows the mileage infrastructure, but through IPsec and for non-trusted 3GPP protocols. We have some security gateways that ensures the IPsec tunnel mounting, of course, between two termination ports, which are border gateway between two service providers. And you have the ISBCs. SBCs is a legacy, also the legacy name given to the P-CSCF, as I said, and it's enabling already some security features like the flooding aspect, like the tampering, let's say, low range impact of the tampering attempts that are being conducted sometimes by malicious actors, and all of this is supposed to be implemented in SBCs. But what we found in the field in the end is that it's not always the case. It needs to be verified at some point. And if you have the SBC and another firewall that is being just monitoring or watching your NNI directly, then maybe another monitoring with an IDS should be very, very interesting for you. So concretely, what are the international threats that you can find on GIS, S8 and N9 and other interfaces that are roaming enabled for you, for MNOs? Concretely, we at P1 we just try to address and to separate different types of attacks, which are the following, which can be seen as fraud attempts, SIP tampering or SIP injections, when you manipulate either the call flows in order to achieve some results, like tracking people, like disrupting a service, a specific service, like the MRF, like we said before, like we presented before with an TP flood, for example, which can't be controlled each time after an authentication by the SBCs. Sometimes the SIP tampering is one of the big families of protocol attacks that we can find in mobile networks, generally speaking, tampering, I mean. And you have the DOS, of course, the disruptions of the service, and it depends on the targets there. And the P-CSCF is supposed to handle this kind of attacks and disruptions. The impacts is over either your MNOs and your infrastructure. Either it's silent, like fraud is supposed to be silent, but smishing attacks through IMS can be detected at some point, even if it's super hard in practice. It can be detected at some point, and you have the same way as for in SS7, SIGTRAN, and or diameter protocols. Of course, it's just basically the same ideas, looking for campaigns that can be conducted. It's not that we are using the GTs anymore. We are using SIP URI and other identifiers that can be spoofed at some point, of course, or just listed towards and go through your network in the end. So regarding the fraud part, you can have some overbilling or some escapement of octets counting. So the offline charging and online charging services are not involved in such escapements, and it's just among the capabilities that can be capabilities. It's not the word. It's more one of the attacks that can be achieved when you have an APN that is enabling you to conduct some services. You might find some campaigns and some techniques to avoid using or just limiting you to use SIP at some points. Concretely, we have at P1 a vulnerability knowledge base that has been enriched over the time by super great pen testers that we have. And here are some examples. We want to give you concrete examples that we found on the field when we conducted our pen tests. And here is the first idea out of 5, the service disruptions. Here we are looking and we are manipulating, we are tampering the SIP packet, which is the invite invite request. And here we are using and modifying the subheader IP to design SIP, to design that defines the destination, the B party that we are calling in order to conduct a call session through IMS. And here we are just modifying by adding some couple of A's or couple of characters that can be whatever Here it's A, just to find if it's doing some things, that are related to either RFC 4475 testing, which has a bad implementation or wrong implementation of the service that is handling the SIP SIP request that we are showing right now. And in fact, it appears that in these cases, it corrupt or crash just the node that was handling this request. So you can see that by just modifying or just conducting some fuzzing attempts, or just looking for buffer overflows, sometimes basic attacks there, you will have some results at some point, and it's basically what is providing there. You will see the title color there, which is in red, which is a height impact. In fact, disruption is very much of the time causing some money losage, or just money losses to the MNOs. And it's basically a high impact. If your subscribers cannot use in whatever examples and whatever designs they are conducting your voice call or using your IMS network, if they can't use the service, of course, there will be an impact on the long-term side. If we move on to the next example, we have the information disclosure, which is pretty critical in this case. Also within an invite, we are just a session progress, sorry, when we are conducting, and we have invited the B party to conduct or to receive our call. We have a session in progress that is being carried. And here we are just seeing that the IMEI is present in the response. The IMEI, or sometimes the IMEI SV, which is the software version of the B party, is present in the response towards the subscriber, which is the A party, which is conducting the call, which is the caller. And it is unnecessary information that are disclosed there, and you can really see the impact of such results. We can, with this kind of information, an attacker can conduct some specific malicious attacks that are just being present on the wide with CVEs. Okay, I have a browser that is being able to, which is vulnerable to some iframe injections. Why not sending some phishing attempts? Because I know now with the IMEI and IMEI SV sometimes, for the baddest occurrences and results, that this UE is vulnerable to this kind of thing. Why not trying? This can be a kill chain in the end. You have now the null encryption. So I've told about it earlier. When you are conducting an authentication through VoLTE, VO5G, VONR, or VoWiFi, you can probably force the ESP to not use the encryption, but just keep the integrity. This way, you will not allow the MITM to be conducted to the tampering on the fly of the request won't be conducted, but you allow an attacker in this way, of course, to see the content of your media or your control plane traffic. And in this case, it's just the risk is pretty obvious. Of course, it's just that we can monitor where is the subscriber which is carrying and just triggering these messages, as well as who is being called by this user and what is being doing. Of course, RTP and RTCP, so the media part and the control plane part are involved in this kind of feature. Here, the color of the title is in orange or yellow, depending on your screen, and it means that the impact is either medium or low. So for us at P1, it's just a matter of what is your regulations forcing the MNOs to do and to achieve and to deploy in the end. And here we lower a little bit the impact, just because sometimes you don't have any choices. If we move on, we have a similar and which is pretty easy to conduct test cases, which is the break of the network segmentation from the roaming perspective. Here we are conducting ourselves as a roaming hub, an IPX, just an operator of operators, and we just access the same way as the operators enabling the MNOs to do it. towards the HSS directly, or other types of nodes which shouldn't be exposed from this leg. For example, I've told you about the NNI. The NNI is enabling the IPsec from the beginning between two nodes and SIP nodes in our cases. And in this case, we are able to see the SIP, the SIP port. You will say to me, okay, it's pretty much normal. We are conducting control plane exchanges. But the thing is, when you are enabling IPsec, you are not enabling the SIP. First of all, IPsec itself is over IKE and the ESP wrapping. And in this case, we are seeing directly the SIP ports on the TCP side. So you know that a SIP can be handled over TCP and UDP. And in this case, we can see directly a response from the TCP control. You should, in the NNI part, you shouldn't have access to the SIP directly. You should mount your IPsec tunnels before trying to access the SIP-based services. And here, it is directly an exposure that shouldn't be possible on the roaming side. Then we have one of the most silent ways to corrupt or to conduct an attack is to achieve location tracking. And the location tracking here is basically the neutron cell ID that is being disclosed from within the core network. So you can see it as the post-exploitation attempt and attack more specifically. It shouldn't be possible to see the PANI, the P-access network info, or either the visited, the PVNI, the P-visited network info from a roaming in and roaming out, from roaming in and roaming out subscribers at any moment. So how to address those parts? We kind of brought some answers during this session, and we will try just to show off what are the best practices, and to just hammer a little bit more on the IPsec enabling to MNOs and the best deployments for possible deployments available here through GSMA guidance and also through TradeGPP and also the IETF. Or the VoIP, actually, generally speaking. So as a proactive and robustness measures that can be applied, you will have the possibility, of course, to ensure confidentiality as well as the integrity. If the IPsec is already enabled, as I said, the security association should be a real security association, a secure association, by enabling always or most of the time the encryption as well as the authentication. Of course, you can't with the SBCs deployed right now, you shouldn't bypass the authentication, but yeah, let's say you need to make sure that it's not possible to conduct such a thing. So you should prohibit the null encryption as much as possible. And it depends also, again, it depends on your regulators and national policies, generally speaking. And regarding the international segments, as we said regarding the NNI discussion, it should be encapsulated at least on IPsec, but you have also the MACsec possibility, which is kind of a little bit trickier. And IPsec is more reliable on this part just because it's easier to deploy. MACsec it's a little bit different, and it's not related to PKI at some point. It's just an exchange of certificates again, but IPsec is more reliable on this part, and yeah, more flexible also. You can use, if you don't use IPsec directly, you can use on top of IPsec for the control plane part. You can enable the SIP with TLS, or the N for the media part, the SRTP directly. So everything can be encrypted at any moment. You have some designs that enables also the SDES part and the key management systems, which is provided by the 3GPP specs. Also, the details are inside them. And for that, it enables the end-to-end encryption between your subscribers. You will just manage and propagate the keys to be used for both ends with a Diffie-Hellman logic of a pre-shared key logic in the end between your two subscribers that are calling each other or conducting some calls between each other or in a group call. Yes, and in the design that we propose on the right-hand side, you will see two ideas there. Is to put the IDS and IDS intrusion and detection service, or yes, even protection, which can be completing if you have a firewall in between the SBCs and your edge directly, if you use any, before contacting the IPX and the roaming operator. In this case, the idea is to, in between the SBC and the edge, the idea is just to ensure that you are filtering out, or you are not seeing null encryption that is being exchanged on this wire. Specifically, this leg is not very natural at the first sight, but in the end, it will be super effective if you see your firewall is not, for example, if you allow it to do this kind of service, is not encrypting your traffic or allowing the null encryption. Either you have configured it to do it this way for a specific MNO, or if you are not doing it for another MNOs, it will have these capabilities to raise alerts in the case it's null encryption that is being forced there. Normally, the integrity should remain at each point, so it shouldn't be a matter. But you can raise this point also with the integrity alerts on this leg. Between the P-CSCF or the ASBC or ISBC and the other nodes, your IDS should raise or should monitor the legs that are being conducted or routed between the SBC and other parts of the network, in order to make sure that regardless of the null encryption, which is decrypted, the traffic is decrypted at this point, to make sure that any disruptions, other disruptions, has not been through the firewall or the SBC features that integrating some security inside it, in order to move forward and allow the attackers to do some wrong attempts, to achieve some wrong results. We have segmentation, network segmentation, and isolation as a guarantee also. In this case, as you can see in the diagram on the right-hand side, and as I described before, you have, from the IPX perspective, sometimes the access directly to the HSS. It shouldn't be the case. It should be performed through call flows that are predefined and not being configured or accesses in a bypassing way. Unfortunately, we can see it also today in our pen test, during our pen test and active audits. In this case, no edge nodes could be bypassed at any moment. If we move a little bit forward, we'll talk about monitoring. And again, what the IDS is providing regarding the deployment of a firewall. Eventually, if you have any firewall inside your network for the SIP, for the IMS part, the idea here is probably you will have some firewalls that or firewall factories that are saying, okay, we are providing this kind of thing of monitoring and raising alerts, and it's matter to you to decide if you need to filter out this kind of alerts or not. It's your choice. And it proposes, at the first, it proposes some kinds of flexibility, but you can't be, the idea and the philosophy in the end, you can be the arbitrary of your own node and also the active part. You need to have another node that is being able to handle this kind of monitoring on top of your active security node, which is the firewall in this case, and also the SBCs. As I said, the flooding attempts can be tempered, just lowered by the SBC directly or detected and disrupted. So it couldn't achieve, the malicious actor couldn't achieve a disruption through this manner. With the SBC's features inside it. You should have a watchdog of IMS board your network nodes of the ISBC and IBCF. If we talk about national roaming, for example, which are being handled by the IDS. And how to measure, in this case, the effectiveness of both your firewall and the detection and alerts provided and raised by the IDS is through the KPIs that is in providing in the end. You will see the effectiveness of your IDS by measuring the throughput of both your firewalls from the ingress network traffic or the egress network traffic, if you allow to do so. So in this case, you will have both detected as an ingress traffic and exploited statements over the LS that you raise, and it's always being very, very interesting in terms of security. You can be proactive in this way and react very fastly. If we move on a little bit, just to conclude, you have a couple of posture to adopt in order to just enhance the security. As we are working in the field, we have the passive surveillance with the IDS that is being provided by the IDS, which will control if the firewall is properly configured or your SBC is properly filtering out some traffic that you don't want to see towards your IMS. And also, it provides you this kind of proactive proactive posture. It provides you some visibility through KPIs and effectiveness of your configurations overall. For now, the IDS and IDPS are not a mandatory part of the guidance provided by the GSMA and the 3GPP neither, but it's being just an advice to deploy such a thing in order to control what is inside your network and be carried inside your network. And here, if you put an IDS on top of your firewall and your SBCs, if you use any firewall or you're not basing only on your SBCs, then you will be compliant to GSMA in the near future at some point. We come to the conclusions at this point. We have 4 things to say about what we saw today. So you can adopt a proactive security posture in the sense that where the IDS is put, it will just detect threats early, as well as completing just the capabilities offered by the SBCs and the firewall again. And it will both include in the scope and protect in the scope both your MNO, your roaming leg, and also your subscriber, the end-to-end, the end subscriber and the end users of your network on both sides. Just because the alarms that are being raised are not only for your network, it will also detect some phishing attempts, as we said, and also other types of attacks that are being conducted. The risk mitigation can be produced by the IDS also, and conducted by the IDS also, just to cover of course the control plane networks, control plane traffic, and also the user plane traffics. It just completes again the role of a signaling firewall. In terms of long-term network health, of course, the interface in use there, which are the NW and MMB, if we talk about VoLTE part, and they just are being covered by the IDS in many ways, and the vigilance of key traffic is being triggered at this point. Even through diameter, we are talking about here. We talked about the fact that the SWB and the SWU were being controlled at some point. If we talk about VoWiFi, but you have also the diameter part. When we are conducting some brute forcing, for example, CX might respond to us with some very really strange responses. So the IDS can control this part also as a complementary service again of your firewall. Then you have traffic tapping at border nodes. Here the ASBCs and IBCFs, if we talk again about national roaming, are being among the border gateway, breakout gateways. And if you tap just you mirror your traffic towards the IDS or your firewall, you can do for your IDS also. It's just improving the threat detection and prevention, and ensure that your network integrity is being watched at some point, even through IPsec based exchanges. or tunnels, or through other manners that you can deploy on your specific network, because there are no two identical networks. It would have been too wonderful, as you may know, as you may guess. So yes, this was the conclusion. So the IDS is effectively a critical point, which is playing a really key role in the security, and it should act as a complementary service offered by your firewall if you use any firewall inside it. Okay, we thank you very much for your attention, and we are really exciting to have your questions.
Thank you, Jimmy. It was a very rich and exhaustive presentation. You basically said everything there is to say. Thank you very much. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A part. We'll try to go over them quickly.
Can EPS fallback be disabled? Thank you for your question, Jordan. EPS fallback can be disabled if you allow directly your network to use the IMS part if you deploy it. There is no single answer to that. Of course, it depends on your network in the end. If you want to force your subscribers to use IMS, you just need to upgrade either your SIM, the profiles that you provide to them. Either you must force them to never fall back, and in this case, it will depend on your mobile station, on the mobile stations of any equipment on the UE directly. Some UEs are not accepting the fallbacks directly. It depends on the grade, the market you are using, iPhones and Samsung, for example. It depends on the software base and the chipset that is allowing this kind of RRC rejections. You can find some events that some software, I mean, that are not enabling the fallbacks at any moment, and it can be triggered by the manufacturers of the UEs themselves, or by you if you enable each and every time you're at any moment and at any circumstances, even through national roaming, to force your subscribers to use IMS each time. So they need to have latest versions of your UEs in order to have the possibility and the chipsets capable to attach to the IMS core also. And yeah, you need to make sure that there is no blind spots regarding the attachment of to your networks, generally speaking. But there is no only sole response to that, unfortunately. So we have Nedim. Thank you, Nedim, for your question. GI and SGI is to from internet or enterprise network. Instead, S8 is between S gateway, VPN, and P gateway, HPN via IPX. You are totally correct on this part, of course. But unfortunately, when we are talking about the UMTS and the GPS coming, at first the voice could have been carried over the internet, directly, so the APN internet. And it is these capabilities that we wanted to raise up today, is that you wouldn't be able to control the voice through internet directly, just because it's not the service that you provide to your subscribers. But at some point, voice can be handled through the GI and SGI. But you are totally correct on the description. It's not just thank you for saying it. We have F. Thank you for a question, F. Could you share a few vulnerabilities from the UE towards the IMS core? From the UE towards the IMS core, you should, we at P1, we try to conduct pen tests from the roaming perspective, from the inside the IMS perspectives, and also from the VoLTE, and so basic access from the VoLTE side, the VoWiFi side, VO5G side. We try to cover everything. And in this case, if you want us to show some vulnerabilities, we can do that directly because it's related to NDAs. We couldn't have anonymized vulnerabilities to show off today, unfortunately, just for that. But if you want to conduct some pen test on your network, just prevent your MNO that you want to conduct some things like disruptions or brute forcing of PSKs if you want to do it through VoWiFi. Try to conduct some flooding toward the P gateway where you are attached to. You will have these informations directly in your UE if you are trying to conduct some test case. The main target will be your P-CSCF or your SBCs directly. So we won't be able to show off some vulnerabilities today, more than the VKBs VKBs entries that we showed, unfortunately. But yeah, it will be a matter of discussion, and I'm sure that we can move ahead and maybe have some private discussions, not to show off the vulnerabilities themselves, but just to discuss about how to achieve some tests. Of course.
Of course. And to do that, we have our contacts there. We have Jimmy's contacts and P1Sec general contact. So thank you again, Jimmy. And by the way, for those of you who will be at MWC, Jimmy will be there with other team members of P1 Security. So feel free to check the website link that I sent to book a meeting with Jimmy or with anyone from P1 to continue the discussion. And if you have any other questions, feel free to send them to our email. We will happily continue our conversation. We're just a little bit off time with 5 minutes. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you a lot, Jimmy. It was really a perfect presentation. And
Thank you, Amin.
Thank you. And have a great rest of the day or of the afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you again, everyone.
Have a good day, guys. See you.
Have a good day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.